Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome back to Spooky Sleuths.
We're so excited for another episode. We're going time traveling for this serial killer story.
I mean, the majority of them were time traveling, but we're going way back this
Real
time.
time traveling.
Yeah. This week, we're taking it back clear to the 1800s for a serial killer story.
Ooh, I love it.
We're going to delve into the chilling tale of Edinburgh's most infamous duo. Let's talk about William Burke and William Hare.
I'm Sammy.
And I'm Nicole.
And we are Spooky Sleuths.
I'm going to bet most of you haven't heard of them, so I think you're in for a treat. I want to preface this with a disclaimer that there's not a lot of details about Burke and Hare themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was the early 1800s.
Right.
Ready to dive into one of the darkest corners of the 19th century?
I sure am.
William Burke was born in 1792 in Orrery, Ireland. He immigrated to Falkirk, Scotland after he divorced his wife after a short time of being married. Mm-hmm. He remarried in Scotland and moved to Edinburgh. The couple sold secondhand clothes, and Burke decided to become a cobbler. Burke was very well liked by his peers. He was religious, had a good sense of humor, and was always carrying his Bible.
Okay. That's interesting.
Less is known about William Hare's life. It is believed that he also emigrated from Ireland to Edinburgh, Scotland. Why was that so hard to say?
I don't know, and I also don't know why it's emigrated. That's just what all the websites said instead of immigrated.
He was said to have kind of the opposite reputation as Burke.
Oh.
He was violent and illiterate. He was said to have only married his wife, who was a widow, because his landlord died. Hare worked as a coalman's assistant before he became a keeper of a lodging house. Coincidentally, the pair met at this lodging house, Tanner's Close, in 1827 and were known around town to drink heavily with their wives.
Okay.
We like to party.
Yeah, I guess so.
Edinburgh has a long history in the medical field. In fact, one of their professional organizations dates back to 1505.
Wow.
And it was previously known as the Guild of Barber Surgeons. Today it is the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh.
Okay.
That's
really old.
Yes, it is. During the time that Burke and Hare were roaming about, Edinburgh was a center of learning and teaching about the human body for the entire world.
Okay. That's interesting.
It is. And the advancement of medicine during this time required bodies that would be available for dissecting and studying.
Okay.
These bodies were typically only those of executed criminals, as they were the only legal bodies that were available.
Oh, so you couldn't even donate your body to science back then?
No, not at all.
That's crazy.
This limited amount of bodies available created a huge demand for bodies at medical schools, leading to the black market sale of bodies.
Of course it did.
These body sellers were known as resurrection men.
That is scary.
It is. It gives
don't like
you
that.
all of the heebie-jeebies.
It reminds me of the zombie apocalypse.
3 for 3.
I swear it's going to happen one day.
And
do you remember back in 2012 when we all thought the world was going to end?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was walking with my cousin at that time. We would walk on a track, and we had picked out places to go and hide if the zombie apocalypse started.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, we were prepared. We're like, if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen when we're out here doing this. We need to be prepared. We were. We had a hiding place.
They would have found you.
No, they wouldn't have.
You smell like meat.
I do not.
No, I mean like human flesh, which they're after, allegedly.
Not the Walking Dead zombies.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I'm prepared for a zombie apocalypse.
We'll have to go find that track, though.
We will. I know exactly where it is.
It's okay. I can keep us fed.
Okay. With what garden?
You know, the garden that's in my yard. It's going to be glorious this summer.
I think there's just onions out there, and I don't like onions.
There's leeks.
I don't know what that is,
chives.
but I feel like I don't like any of those things.
You've never let me cook them. Anyways, before I get any more offended.
Insert bleep here.
Typically, resurrection men retrieved the bodies they sold from graves. They were literally grave robbers.
Okay.
They had to be quick about it, though. They only had a couple days for the bodies to still be usable.
Oh, yeah. They probably decompensated really fast.
Yeah, because this was before all of the preservation.
Yeah. And even if they were preserved, I'm sure it's still like
Gross.
Yeah.
Some graveyards today still have metal cages called mort safes that were placed over graves to prevent resurrection men from digging up the bodies.
That is so crazy.
But then you think of like Lexington when we went to that graveyard where there's bodies literally above the ground.
Could you imagine how easy it would have been for resurrection men to get them?
Yes.
Oh.
Cemeteries even had watchtowers so guards could watch over the graves.
I can't believe that was such a big problem, that all of that was necessary. I mean, I can believe it, but it's shocking.
Yeah, and this is where Burke and Hare come in. Their story starts in November of 1827. One of the lodgers at the Tanner's Close died of natural causes. Mm-hmm. He owed Hare £4 for rent at the time of his passing. £4. Now, in 1827, that was quite a bit of money, about £529 in today's money, but still.
Okay, you write off a month of rent. Like, what?
But they decided they would sell his body to pay off his debt.
Oh, okay.
They found a physician, Dr. Robert Knox, at Knox's School of Anatomy, a local medical school, who was willing to purchase the body to use at the school for dissection. Dr. Knox paid the duo £7 and 10 shillings, which is almost worth £1,000 today.
Listen, I hope my landlords don't sell my body to pay for my rent.
Well, think about it.
But if you do, I hope you get more than £7 and 10 shillings.
Me too. But this more than paid the debt that the lodger owed. This quick and easy profit was enticing to the pair. They decided this was their new way to not only make money for their families, but to get rich. After all, Dr. Knox's assistant told them they would be welcome back if they had another body to dispose of.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So the pair, along with the help of their wives, were on a mission. There were already many grave robbers at that time, so they decided to murder people rather than dig them up from the cemetery.
I bet they were fresher that way.
The problem came when they were finally captured, as they were both heavy drinkers and couldn't remember the order that they killed people in.
Oh my gosh.
So they would get lit before they would go out and do all this.
Yeah. Wow.
We do know that the murder started in January of 1828, and it is believed that the first victim of Burke and Hare was a man named Joseph. Joseph was staying at Tanner's Close when he suddenly became sick with a fever. Hare's wife, Margaret, was very concerned about the reputation that a guest with a potentially contagious disease would bring to their lodging house.
That's what I would be worried about, too.
She was concerned that Joseph's illness would be bad for business, and rather than bad for Joseph himself.
Oh my gosh.
So Hare and Burke decided to take care of him. Not in a lovingly taking care of him way. They get him out of here so we don't lose business kind of way.
Oh, okay.
The pair got Joseph drunk on whiskey. Then Hare suffocated him by covering his mouth and nose while Burke held him down. They took Joseph's body to Dr. Knox, and this time they received £10 for the corpse.
Oh, well, sign me up.
It's about £1,300 today.
I would need a lot more money than that to kill someone. I don't think any amount of money and I would kill someone. I don't think so. If someone just randomly died, I would need a lot more than that to go sell their body.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's wild.
Give me $1 million and you can have this body. And then I'm turning you in for buying it.
And then getting immunity.
Yes.
Burke and Hare decided to use this method of murder that they used on Joseph for the rest of their murders. It was convenient and left no marks on the bodies, which made them perfect cadavers.
I mean, yeah.
But Burke and Hare didn't have any more sick tenants, so they had to find a different way to get their victims. This meant that they had to start luring them in. They got their victims from the lodging house. Lodging houses were homes for people with little money and no family to live with. Burke and Hare were preying on vulnerable people who weren't very likely to be missed.
As most serial killers do.
Absolutely. It's just not sex workers this time.
Yeah.
Many victims after the murder of Joseph are unknown. While the pair are credited for the murder of 16 people, the total suspected to be much higher. But these next few are some of the ones we do know about. The first is a woman named Mary Patterson. She was invited to stay at Tanner's Close by Burke, along with her friend Janet Brown, who was a local sex worker. Janet had left Burke and Mary alone for a short period of time, and when she returned, she was told that Mary and Burke had left. Janet waited for Mary, but she never returned, so Janet left. As it turns out, Burke had lured Mary into the next room where he and Hare murdered her. It's suspected that Janet was also supposed to be a victim, but she was lucky enough to leave before Burke returned.
That's sad.
Mary was sold to Dr. Knox as well. He was impressed with the quality of her body, so impressed that he pickled it in whiskey for 3 months before dissecting it.
What? Like you pickled a body in whiskey?
For what medical purpose? I'm not sure.
For what purpose in general? I really didn't think that whiskey would be a preserve agent like that.
I don't know. I don't want to pickle
he's a
cucumbers
doctor,
and whiskey.
but...
Another victim was Abigail Simpson. She was a salt seller from the nearby village of Gilmerton. She often came to Edinburgh to sell her salt. The murder is one where Margaret, Hare's wife, was involved with the luring.
Okay.
Margaret invited Abigail into their home and got her drunk. After, Burke and Hare proceeded to murder her and take her body to Dr. Knox.
That is so sad. She was just trying to sell her salt. And I'm assuming it was real salt, not bath salt.
Yeah. We also know about a traveling salesman and an elderly woman who were murdered by Burke and Hare. The elderly woman was given a high amount of pain pills, leading to an overdose.
Oh.
So not only was she murdered, but her blind grandson was murdered by Hare. He broke the young boy's back using his knee.
Oh, that's really sad.
The grandmother and grandson were not the only pair of relatives that fell victim to Burke and Hare. A woman who is known as Mrs. Haldane was suffocated and sold to Dr. Knox. And when her daughter came looking for her, she was also suffocated and sold. The two even murdered one of Burke's wife's relatives, Anne McDougall.
Oh, so we're like not, they aren't even afraid to
they
kill
don't
anyone.
Yeah, they don't care. They're just selling bodies. They're not people anymore. Burke and Hare's next to last victim was a man named James Wilson. James was a well-known person in Edinburgh. He was mentally ill and a beggar with a nickname of Daft Jamie. He refused to drink the whiskey offered by Burke and Hare, so they had to attack him. Medical students that were dissecting his body recognized him.
Oh my gosh.
They told Dr. Knox, but he didn't believe them and had the students continue with the dissection.
That's really sad.
To avoid anyone else raising questions about his identity, Dr. Knox amputated James' head and feet.
I don't like Dr. Knox.
He is just as guilty.
Yes.
But he had to know what was happening here.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, Burke and Hare began to argue. Burke believed that Hare and Margaret were not splitting the money equally between them. Burke thought that Hare was cutting deals with Dr. Knox to make money for himself. So Burke and his wife Helen began taking in their own lodgers to use for corpses. This was right before their last murder, who happened to be a lodger at Burke's. The last murder was of a woman named Marjorie Campbell Docherty. On Halloween night in 1828, so this was all in the same year.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of people in the same
1
year.
Marjorie was invited to stay with Burke and his wife. They told Marjorie that she was a distant relative of Burke's mother. In order to do this, Burke and his wife had to get rid of the couple who were staying with them. When the couple returned the next day, Burke and his wife told them that Marjorie had to leave because she was flirting with Burke.
Oh.
They were not allowed to enter the spare room that they had belongings in, but did so when they were alone. They found Marjorie deceased and stuffed under the bed.
Oh.
When the couple approached Burke's wife, Helen, she offered them £10 a week to not say anything.
I feel like that's a lot of money every
That's
week.
a lot
when
of
you're
hush
only
money.
getting £10 for one body. Like, you'd have to at least do 2 a week.
Yeah. Thankfully, the couple didn't accept the bribe and went to the police.
Good.
Burke and Hare were able to sell Marjorie's body to Dr. Knox prior to the police arriving.
Wow. So they knew they had been caught. They were getting rid of the evidence.
But still wanted paid for it.
Yeah.
When the police arrived at Burke and Helen's home, they arrested the couple. Later, Hare and Margaret would be arrested as well. All four gave conflicting statements, and Burke and Hare turned on each other.
Of course they did.
Naturally. The police had very little evidence that murder had occurred. Burke's tenants were able to identify Marjorie, and Janet Brown was able to identify Mary Patterson. But other than that, they had nothing except bloodstained clothes that belonged to Marjorie.
Mm-hmm.
Since all the bodies had been disposed of by Dr. Knox, they didn't even have those to prove a case.
It's really hard to prove murder when you don't have a body. It's possible, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
Especially back then. It's hard today.
With very little evidence, the Lord Advocate Sir William Ray allowed Hare to have immunity for all crimes if he testified against Burke and Helen.
I assume that's like the prosecutor, probably.
I would assume.
Or the ADA or whoever it is. Yeah.
The deal was good for Hare and Margaret since spouses can't testify against each other.
Of course.
Hare accepted the deal and turned on his friend and criminal partner Burke. Burke's trial began on Christmas Eve of 1828.
Why are we starting this on Christmas
I
Eve?
don't know. It seems insane to me. Burke was charged with the murders of Marjorie, Mary Patterson, and James Wilson, while Helen was charged with the murder of Marjorie. Helen was found not guilty for her involvement in the murder of Marjorie, but Burke was found guilty on all three murders. I'm sure it was a woman couldn't do that.
Probably. Or she was just doing what her husband told her to do.
Yeah, when that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
Burke was sentenced to be hung, and his body was ordered to be used for medical dissection.
Karmic justice.
Absolutely. Burke was hanged at Lawn Market in front of a crowd of 25,000 people on January, on January 28th of 1829. So they didn't wait.
No, they don't have like time for an appeal back then.
No, like they don't have years on death row.
Oh.
His skeleton is on display at Surgeons Hall in Edinburgh. In the same place, you can find his death mask and a life mask of Hare's face. Medical students kept souvenirs of Burke's body, using his skin to bind books.
Oh my gosh.
Like, this is all just whack.
But it's like the 1820s, so I mean,
Still, it gives me weird vibes.
yeah.
Hare was released in February of 1829 and escaped to England. It is unclear what happened to him after he left Scotland, but it is said that he was thrown into a lime quarry by an angry mob.
Oh.
It is believed that he spent the rest of his life on the streets of London as a blind beggar. Helen fled to Australia, and Margaret fled to Ireland. Dr. Knox cleared of all involvement.
Of course he was.
But his reputation did take a hit.
Oh.
He moved to London to try to salvage his career. I think it is ironic and wonderful that Burke's body was donated to science after the crimes he committed.
Absolutely.
But what about Hare? Do you think he should have been punished the same way? These two committed countless murders, and only one of them was convicted for 3 of those murders. That doesn't seem just to me.
And me either. I think that Hare should have received some kind of punishment. If they wanted to cut a deal with him to get him to turn on Burke, why full immunity?
Yeah, why not life in prison as opposed to the death penalty?
Right. I don't understand that concept. Like, he still played a vital role in this.
Yeah. It was bananas.
And I
to
think
me.
the wives should have been convicted too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they just knew what was going on and didn't report it, that's accessory.
It absolutely is. Accessory, conspiracy,
Right.
all the things. What do you guys think? Have you guys heard of Burke and Hare before? Because I hadn't. I'd heard of Edinburgh, but not of Burke and Hare. Not to this. This is crazy. Which is the amount of medical that I love. I'm surprised I hadn't really heard much.
I think the concept of resurrection men is just crazy.
It is. You would have to be really down on your luck.
Yeah.
To even think that this would be a good venture.
Absolutely. And, you know, that is a despicable crime.
Yeah.
Being a resurrection man, getting bodies out of graves. Despicable. But at least they aren't killing people. Like Burke and Hare, they ain't waiting for people to die. They're making it happen.
Yeah, and they like the fresh body.
They get more money if they're fresh, probably.
I mean, Dr. Knox paid them more. That's I think he should have faced.
Absolutely.
Especially once the students recognized one of his people.
And he chose to continue on anyway. And covered it up.
Yeah, like he dismembered the body.
Right.
So nobody else could notice who it was.
I don't want to give an opinion on the death penalty for this case because I'm very gray on death penalty in general. But whatever punishment Burke and Hare got, Dr. Knox should have got too.
Yes.
So.
Which he kind of did. He got the exact same punishment Hare did.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. But he was able to rebuild his career.
Yeah. It's wild. What do you guys think? If you made it this far in the video, leave us a rabbit emoji for Hare.
Oh my gosh. Make sure to check us out on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Spooky Sleuths Pod. Follow us, subscribe, comment, wherever you're listening to this.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah, make sure you rate and review.
And we'll catch you guys next week.
Don't forget to smash that like button, guys.
And on that note,
stay spooky, friends.